It happened in the middle of the night. It is said that Prince Harry boarded a private jet at a small airport in California and took off for London, alone. No Meghan, no kids, no usual security cordon. Just Harry in a bag. Destination? London. Why? It's said that Tyler Perry opened the vault. Was a confidentiality clause triggered? Was Perry erased from the story and now the receipts are coming? Get comfortable. If this is true, it's not a comeback. It's a 180-degree turn. Stay until the end, because the detail no one is noticing could explain why Harry would be running, for the first time, toward the palace and not away from it. At the palace, they didn't confirm anything at first, but the rumor spread immediately. He's back in the UK. He's staying in a country house. He's been making calls. And here's the twist everyone keeps repeating. He wouldn't have fled the Windsors this time, but rather fled toward them. After years of interviews, memoirs, and streaming documentaries that cast his family as the antagonist, he suddenly wanted to put an ocean between himself and California. What changed? 2 words, according to the rumors. Tyler Perry, the mogul who opened his home, his plane, and his support network to them when they left real life. The one Meghan called Protector, Rock, and Lifeline, that very name is now the trigger that, it is said, is shaking everything the Sussexes built. Because Perry, they say, doesn't just help, he documents. Every conversation, every favor, every tearful phone call, all stored and archived in a kind of vault. And when Meghan allegedly made a catastrophic mistake, not only was trust affected, she reportedly triggered a legal clause that would allow Perry to provide public context. Now they're talking about audio recordings. The internet is ablaze, and Harry is reportedly in freefall, at least according to the online conversation. That wouldn't be the whole story. What many overlook about Perry, those who know him say, is that he doesn't seek attention through drama. He's a seasoned businessman who learned that in Hollywood, loyalty is transactional and receipts save you. So when Harry and Meghan arrived in 2020 seeking refuge, he didn't just offer them the keys to a mansion, they also, it's claimed, signed papers. A standard-sounding residency agreement, but with a hidden clause about reputation and public disavowals. Translation in rumor key. If one party erases or discredits the other in public, the non-infringing party can reveal context to protect itself. And Perry, being Perry, would have prepared notes, drafts, planning materials, even interview prep footage. It's not paranoia, it's protection, because people rewrite history when it suits them. And when Meghan, as the story goes, did exactly that, she unknowingly handed over a nuclear option. It all started in silence. Perry's name would have begun to fade from the Sussex narrative. 1 month he was the heroic godfather in dazzling montages. The next, silence. Archived photos, edited texts, fewer mentions. Why cut ties? Some say it was about timing. Legal headlines aside, his name had become a PR liability. Solution: immediate distancing. For outsiders, it's a tactic. For Perry, according to the narrative, betrayal. And there would be what the calculation had forgotten, that clause. If they had really erased him from the map, he could speak. The vault, they say, was opened. Then came the first clip, according to viral posts. Less than a minute, out of context, but with recognizable voices. Meghan, they allege, speaking about strategy with a director's precision. Don't overexploit certain cards so as not to seem contrived. Harry, tired, pointing out that it's not a good idea to cry too much in front of Netflix. 60 seconds that, if they were real, would jeopardize years of carefully cultivated vulnerability. Timelines filled up, defenders fell silent, skeptics asked questions. Feeds with split screens comparing past interviews with the alleged audio. What had seemed raw, under that lens looked rehearsed. Perry didn't say anything. No confirmation, no denial. Silence. A second leak, a week later again, according to online accounts, brought Harry into sharp focus, walking, adjusting tone and texture. If we're too polished, it seems fake. If we emphasize the pain, it seems manipulative. Meghan entered softly but firmly. We show garden scenes to ground things, and we reserve the strong emotion for the third act. That phrase ignited the critics. The idea that the post-real stage wasn't spontaneous catharsis, but a structured narrative. Many rewatched the docuseries, noting beats, pauses, and crescendos as editing decisions. For Harry, sources whisper, something broke there. Sleepless nights in Montecito, shorter and more tense phone calls, A confidant would have heard, "I understood that it was over, not just a PR cycle." The entire building. And then came the discreet calls to London. Not to LA publicists or streaming partners, but to his father's office. "Polls, I'm not doing well. I need to go back," without saying it. Within 48 hours, according to this version, he was already flying. Reservation under a shell corporation, takeoff while the paparazzi slept, no entourage or fanfare. Back in the country, he had publicly criticized. Without official confirmation, of course, but royal circles are talking. A secluded estate, trusted allies, cameras kept away. What would have worried Meghan's team? For the first time in years, the runaway prince wasn't fleeing the institution, he was approaching it. And there would be one last letter missing. A document signed 3 weeks into the stay. Not just another NDA, but something dubbed a strategic repositioning plan. Exit objectives, PR messaging, rebranding architecture, an appearance schedule, and phases. 2 signatures at the bottom. If it were authentic, I would reposition every spontaneous moment as a scheduled milestone. Brand analysts spoke of a collapse of trust, commentators of the death of authenticity. Neutral observers chose a side, and it wasn't the Sussexes, because it's not about whether there were grievances, it's about selling unfiltered truth while operating from a script. Where would that leave everyone if the rumor were confirmed? Perry, quiet and solid, with no studio tours or tell-all books, reminding the industry that he keeps records. Meghan, they say, is facing headwinds. Colder media, alliances that have cooled, and a lifestyle pivot that just won't take off. Harry, quieter and more reflective, as if he realizes he's traded one institution for another. The night flight wasn't about panic, but clarity. The fairy tale was just another script, and the cameras never stopped rolling. It wasn't the tabloids or the courtiers who threatened the narrative. It was the evidence, the documents. A man they tried to erase, who kept everything and waited. And now the question hangs on the horizon. Is Harry coming back to stay? 3 paths emerge if the murmur were to turn into reality. The first, tactical reconciliation. A Harry who lowers the volume, sits down without cameras, accepts discreet conditions not as surrender, but as an armistice, and agrees to a partial return to family circles. Occasional appearances, a measured presence, no confessional interviews. It would be a way to salvage what can be salvaged without setting fire to what has already been said. The second, a controlled separation. Not an explosive statement, but a public drift. Separate appearances, divergent agendas, coordinated silence. In that version, Meghan clings to her brand and new partners, reframes her narrative, lessons learned, new chapter, and seeks respite from the noise. Harry cultivates a more institutional profile, with causes that don't require emotional exposure. No one declares defeat, they simply turn the page. The third, counterattack. Close voices come forward to deny, folders and nuances emerge, and the tapes, if they exist, are countered with context, dates, and alternative versions. It would be the riskiest path. It prolongs the cycle, raises the reputational cost, and turns every email, interview script, or producer's message into fuel for another week of headlines. For Meghan, the immediate board would be one of surgical focus. Less omnipresence, more precision. If soft support cools off, it's time to double down on loyal micro-audiences, tangible products, and measurable deliverables, capsule collections, exclusive collaborations, premium content of real value. The key word would be consistency. Repeat successes until the noise gets tired. For Harry, the margin lies in the tone. If his greatest vulnerability was perceived overacting, his asset now is sobriety. Quiet work, annual reports with numbers, less camera time on his face, and more results on paper. If the public pendulum rewards restraint, every small gesture and act with his father, a recovered patronage, is worth more than an hour-long monologue. For Perry, silence remains the play. The mere idea of an organized vault already disciplines the conversation. In that ecosystem, not speaking is speaking. Remember that there are timelines, contracts, and acknowledgements. If you decide to move a piece, it probably won't be a megaphone, but a surgical leak to someone who knows how to read documents. And the palace? It's racking up points by waiting. Inertia favors it. The institution thrives at the pace of the calendar, not of trending topics. A closed-door coffee is worth more than 10 denials. If there's a symbolic return, they'll make it seem like routine. If there isn't, silence will look like prudence. In both cases, time works in their favor. Meanwhile, the public does what it does best: recalibrate. Some ask not to sanctify anyone, others not to demonize. The fatigue of the final chapter is palpable, too many endings that never end. Hence, the narrative that survives will be the simplest, one that delivers facts, not promises, one that can withstand scrutiny, not spin. It can also happen that nothing blows up. The supposed evidence remains in the realm of insinuation, and everything is resolved through attrition. In that scenario, the industry will be left with a pragmatic lesson. Don't underestimate legal attachments. Don't overestimate the internet's selective memory. And don't confuse engagement with a license to last forever. If the buzz dies down, the mark will remain. The suspicion that the public truth is a fabrication when it's not documented, the confirmation that stories without an archive expire, the lesson that timing is everything. And if the buzz starts up again, we'll be back to the same old thing. Timelines, split screens, and lip-reading experts. The difference this time will be the public's appetite to keep watching. Until then, the key piece remains floating where it began, on that nighttime flight that some swear happened and others deny ever seeing. If Harry comes back to stay, we'll know not by speeches but by schedules. The names on his calendar will say more than any words. If he doesn't come back, silence will close the chapter for him. And in either case, the vault, real or imagined, will have served its purpose, reminding everyone that, in this game, the only thing that carries more weight than the narrative is the evidence that supports it or dismantles it.